You are 26 years old, and you work logistics for a mid-sized freight company operating out of Antwerp. You move containers, you track manifests, you know which port inspectors take coffee breaks at what time, which customs codes get waved through on Fridays, and which shipping lanes have the lightest documentation requirements in the Eastern Mediterranean. You are not a criminal, you are thorough, you are good at your job. Your manager calls you the best he's ever had. You consider that a modest compliment and keep your head down. Then a man named Decker sits across from you at a bar you didn't choose and slides a number across the table. Not a business card, just a number, handwritten on a receipt. He tells you there's a procurement problem he needs solved and that you come highly recommended by someone you once helped reroute a delayed shipment for. The number on the receipt is larger than your annual salary. He tells you the cargo is agricultural equipment. You know it isn't. You know by the weight tolerances he describes, the humidity requirements, the destination manifest routed through 3 intermediary countries before its final port. You know. And you don't walk away. That is where it starts, not with a gun to your head, not with desperation or ideology. It starts with a number on a receipt and a decision you make with full awareness. That honesty is the only thing that has kept you alive since. Within 8 months, you have moved 4 shipments, small arms, anti-personnel mines and components, technically legal at each individual transfer point, night vision equipment classified as industrial optics. You earn more in those 8 months than you did in the prior 4 years combined. You open a consultancy. You hire a lawyer in Liechtenstein and an accountant in Cyprus. You are, on paper, a logistics and procurement specialist with an impressive client list. The paperwork is immaculate. That is your first and most important rule. The paperwork is always immaculate.
By the time the war starts, you have been operating for 3 years. It begins as most wars begin, which is to say it had been building for years before anyone called it a war. A regional conflict in a country most people in Western Europe can point to on a map only approximately. 2 factions, a government force with international recognition and access to official defense procurement channels, which means NATO-adjacent suppliers who charge a premium and move slowly through bureaucratic approval cycles, and an opposition force with access to cash, diaspora networks, and a desperate need for materiel that nobody official will sell them. Within 6 weeks of the first major engagements, you have been contacted by both sides independently, neither knowing about the other. You sit with that reality for exactly 1 night. You understand what it means. You understand the geometry of it, morally, strategically, financially. If you supply only one side, you are an arms dealer. If you supply both sides, you are something more dangerous and something more stable. You are infrastructure. And infrastructure doesn't get replaced mid-conflict. You are too essential to remove. That is the logic. You know it is also the logic of a man rationalizing something he should not do. You do it anyway. Your operation runs through 3 primary brokers, one in Nicosia, one in Belgrade, one in Dubai. None of them know each other. None of them know the full picture. Each broker handles a client they believe is their exclusive account. You are the only point where all 3 lines converge. You have designed it this way deliberately. If any one broker is arrested, compromised, or flipped, they can only identify one thread. The network stays intact. This took you 2 years to build, and it is the architecture you are most proud of, in the same way an engineer is proud of a bridge, without any particular feeling about what crosses it.
The government side pays in documented transfers through a Defense Ministry procurement office that runs funds through a legitimate third-country intermediary. The paperwork describes dual-use equipment, communications hardware, vehicle components. It is clean money moving through clean channels. It is the kind of transaction that would survive a surface-level audit. The opposition side pays in a combination of cryptocurrency routed through 4 wallet exchanges and physical cash handed off through a network of couriers that you never meet directly. You receive confirmation through a system of coded messages in the comment sections of a woodworking forum that your security consultant set up 18 months ago. You have never posted about woodworking. You know more about mortise joints than you ever expected to. The first crisis comes in month 4 of the conflict. A shipment meant for the government force gets flagged at a transit port because a dock worker noticed inconsistencies in the declared weight. You have 48 hours before a port authority inspector with ambitions opens the container. You make 3 calls. The first is to your Cyprus broker, who contacts a freight attorney who specializes in misdeclaration disputes.
The second is to a man you know in the transit country's trade ministry, someone you have maintained a relationship with for 2 years through occasional gifts and a retainer that is described in your accounts as consulting fees. The third call is to the shipping company, requesting an emergency rerouting based on a falsified buyer dispute. The container moves. The inspector finds nothing to inspect. It costs you 60,000 euros and 4 years of careful relationship maintenance. You log it as a loss and move forward. What you don't expect is the call that comes 3 days later. It's from a voice you don't recognize, routed through a number that traces to a telecom ghost registered in the Seychelles. The voice tells you they know about the container. They know about the inspector. They know about your trade ministry contact. They are not a law enforcement agency. They are, the voice explains calmly, a private intelligence firm that has been monitoring arms flows in the region for a client they do not name. They want a percentage, 18% of all gross revenue from both accounts routed monthly, or they take the information to the government-side client, who, unlike the opposition, has an intelligence apparatus with both the motivation and resources to respond to betrayal with something more permanent than a lawsuit.
You spend 36 hours thinking about this. You run the numbers. 18% is significant but survivable. The alternative scenarios, investigation, exposure, the government client discovering you are simultaneously supplying their enemy, are not. You agree. You wire the first payment. You immediately begin the process of building a file on the intelligence firm itself, because the only way to survive a parasite is to develop one of your own. You find the firm within 11 weeks. You learn who their client is. That information goes into an encrypted archive that you maintain on a server in Iceland, under a company name that cannot be traced to you through fewer than 9 corporate layers. You have never used this archive. Its value is entirely in its existence as a threat you could make. The moral weight of the operation arrives not in a single moment, but in accumulation. You see the casualty figures in news reports, and you are able to trace, with high probability, which specific weapon systems contributed to specific engagement outcomes. You shipped anti-armor rockets to the opposition in February. In March, there is reporting about a government armored column destroyed in a valley you can find on a satellite map. You made a margin of roughly $400,000 on that shipment. You understand the arithmetic. You do not stop. You are not sure what that means about you, and you have learned that sitting too long with that question is the most dangerous thing you can do, not because the answer is unbearable, but because it might not be. You might be fine with it, and that is worse. By the end of the first year of conflict, you have expanded. A second war, smaller, in a different region, comes to your attention through a broker contact. You take a single account on one side, a cautious entry, to evaluate the new network. You are now moving volume that requires you to hire 2 additional logistics coordinators, both of whom believe they work for a legitimate dual-use technology trading company. They are not wrong, technically. The company is legitimate. It trades technology. The technology has uses beyond the ones documented. You pay them well. You give them no access to anything that matters. They are human interface points between you and the paperwork, and they are effective. The second crisis is personal in a way the first was not. A journalist, freelance, based in Berlin, publishes a piece about arms flows into the conflict. The piece is broadly correct about the market. It does not name you. It names one of your brokers, not by name, but by operational profile. A description accurate enough that you know the journalist has a source inside one of the 3 networks. You identify the most likely source within 4 days, using only information you already possess. A logistics contact in Belgrade who had been cooperative beyond what his role required, asking questions about routing that didn't concern his function. You pass his name to a security consultant who handles such matters. You do not ask for details. The journalist's subsequent piece does not advance the story. You tell yourself this is because the source was neutralized, meaning made to stop cooperating. You tell yourself you don't know what that required. You are not sure whether you believe yourself. The hardest operational decision comes in month 19. The government side, your cleaner, more lucrative account, requests a category of weapon you have not previously moved. The request is specific in a way that suggests targeting parameters rather than general battlefield use. You understand what it would be used for. You understand the civilian density of the area the intelligence assessment, which you are not supposed to have and absolutely do have, indicates as the likely target zone. You spend 4 days on this. You bring in no one. You make the decision alone, which is the only way you make decisions that matter. You decline the order. You construct a plausible supply chain problem, a manufacturer delay, an inspection hold, something that loses you the revenue without losing the relationship. The government contact is frustrated, but accepts it. You have bought yourself no moral credit with this decision. You are already 400 decisions past the point where declining one order saves anything. But you do it.
You file it away as the line you didn't cross, though you know perfectly well where all the other lines are buried. By the end of year 2, you are worth, in liquid and near-liquid assets, approximately $40 million spread across 6 jurisdictions. You have a legal identity that is bulletproof. You have a personal security team of 4, none of whom know what you do, all of whom know to take instructions without questions. You have not spoken to anyone from your previous life in 14 months, not because they were cut off, because you cut yourself off. Not for their protection, though you tell yourself it is, because there is no version of you that fits in those conversations anymore. You have become something that doesn't translate.
The intelligence firm continues to collect their 18%. You continue to build the file on them. The file is now extensive enough that you are reasonably confident it constitutes a mutual destruction arrangement rather than simple leverage. You have communicated this to them once, obliquely, through a message that could not be traced but could not be misunderstood. The payments continue. So does the operation. This is equilibrium. You have learned that equilibrium is not safety. It is just the condition in which all the dangerous things are stable for now. The war, your first war, shows signs of moving toward a negotiated ceasefire. You watch the diplomatic signals the way a doctor reads a chart. A ceasefire does not end your operation. It restructures it. Post-conflict environments have their own arms economy, reconstruction contracts laced with security procurement, demobilized fighters who retained weapons, new factions forming in the political vacuum. You have begun preliminary conversations with 2 new contacts who operate in that space. The transition has already begun. What you understand now that you did not understand when Decker slid a number across a bar table is that this is not a business you entered, it is a current you stepped into. There is no exiting by decision alone. Retirement in this world is either a long, meticulous, years-long extraction requiring the kind of operational patience most people don't have, or it is something that happens to you before you choose it. You are planning the former. You have been planning it in a document that lives in the same Iceland server as the intelligence firm file for about 8 months. It will take 3 more years, minimum, to execute cleanly. 3 more years of shipments, payments, decisions made alone in rooms with no windows. Tonight there is a call scheduled, the opposition broker, a new request, significant volume, significant margin. You already know you will take it. You already know what you will tell yourself about why. You are very good at that by now. You pick up the phone on the second ring, because hesitating is the one thing you cannot afford to let anyone see, not even yourself.